Hey everybody, welcome back to The Collective. We have another awesome show lined out for you to do. We're going to have a guest here shortly. Unfortunately, the original guy that I had selected, not just selected, but had scheduled, unfortunately has a sick child, so he won't be joining us today. You know who will be joining us today? A couch.
His
An empty
couch.
couch. Yeah,
That's
Sach's
how you
couch.
doing, couch?
Apparently,
How do you feel? Are you relaxed?
Could be very relaxed. I think he got up like
Firm
passed out.
and supportive.
Oh, look, there he is.
Oh,
There
sorry.
we go.
I was fixing my TV.
All good. I was just saying, we're like, hey, look who's here, and then there was a couch.
Yeah.
Sorry, man.
Firm and supportive couch.
Oh, Winterstorm says morning, Winterstorm. He also
Morning.
says morning couch.
Yeah, indeed.
He's
Sorry.
in right away. And he also says morning Sach. There you go. Everybody's in.
Morning.
We're saying
Oh,
hi to
I thought
everybody.
I thought it was in the green room. My bad.
Yeah. You were for a second, and then I think as I was hitting the button, you stood up, and then it was just kind of like a bing couch. All good though. We got it sorted out. We're gonna carry on with the conversation today. Before I get into anything, hold on. Before we go anywhere,
Get it done. Get it.
I do want to make
done,
sure that
girls.
everybody likes, subscribes, and notifies themselves of any time we are going live, because when I hit the live button, you get an email and it says, "Yo, the boys are on the collective." That's not actually
back
what
in
it says,
town. So hey,
boys are back in
Sach,
town.
the reason that so we're just about to go into this live, and it was just going to be Chance and I say just. It would have awesomely been Chance and mediocre Shaun getting together, having a conversation.
Right.
And I just figured it'd be good to have you in on this conversation.
Indeed.
Because I'd already said I'd try to get you in on my live IG chat right at the end, but I ran out of time, and I've already made the lame excuse that sound collapses on IG live chats. It just does, and it sucks. And I'm trying not to do it. I'm trying to do it over here because connection is good.
Much better.
And so there's no sound collapse, there's no video collapse. Plus, it's a lot more interactive. So I figured instead of doing it on IG, do it here. But B, of course, the conversation came up about Chance, and then of course about you in respect to Magnum Nutrition athletes, sponsored athletes and whatnot. I mean, we've had you, we've had Julia, that's right. And wasn't there someone else? Saye isn't. No, just the two of you. I just figured it made sense to have you in on a conversation. But we don't have to continue on about nutrition, but certainly, I mean, we've got to sort out Chance Burles' flatulence.
Yeah, no, 100%, man. Yeah, anytime. I mean,
yeah, my wife would appreciate it. That's for sure.
The entire internet would appreciate it.
And eventually you would appreciate it.
That's
eventually.
Right.
Although, you kind of, after a long period of time living with it, you kind of, you grow accustomed to your own scent, right? And then, then you're good to go. But
I was surprised, honestly, man, I was shocked listening to yesterday that
really?
You didn't have, like, you were having such little protein, and you're rolling, you're doing jiu-jitsu, like, I was like, what?
I thought I was doing pretty well. And actually yesterday I was commenting, Shaun, last night, I had, I think, 2 separate protein shakes throughout the day, because I did a workout in the morning and I had a shake right after that. And then I did jiu-jitsu and I had another shake after that. And then I ate dinner, and I still only came out to like 120 grams protein versus I should be upwards of 180. Like, just
Sach and I both knowingly nodding our heads, realizing that most of the planet doesn't understand anything about math when it comes to protein.
Yeah.
That is correct. Yeah. So
it's good though. You were having like a female's amount of protein, so that's great.
Not even.
I mean, not even
like a small female,
like a child,
3-year-old, a child's.
I'll be honest. My daughter is almost 6, and she probably has like close to 100, maybe.
Man, yeah, no, I've been, and I thought I was doing pretty well for protein
and again,
up until yesterday, I think, really.
You and literally every single other bro hemo in the world who thinks that they're rad.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so crazy, man, but it's it's not even a trend. It's reality. It's like carved in stone that every bro hemo out there doesn't know a freaking thing about nutrition.
You know, it's
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I've been eating whatever protein and food for so long that I just have kind of accustomed to like, I thought everyone kind of had a rough idea, not like a full on understanding, but a rough idea, this much protein and whatnot. So it was a good eye opener for me for sure.
Yeah, I realized, Shaun and I were talking the other day, and I was like, I had a really hard time putting on weight when I was a teenager. Like it didn't matter how much I worked out. Like I was playing football, I was working out every day, and there you go. And I was eating quite a bit, and I really tried to put on weight, and it wasn't until I joined the Army when I actually started putting on weight. So like when I signed up, I was 175 pounds at 6'5.5". Like I was rail thin.
Dude, you're a lawn dart.
Yeah. And even now.
How old were you when you joined?
23.
Mm-hmm.
And so like, man, not even now, I still feel thin. Like I'm pretty trim in general, but
so there's a term I use for people that are kind of like you, and it's not trying to be mean, but it's called skinny fat.
I call him skinny fat. Dude, you literally beat me to the punch. I was just about to say, but dude, you're skinny fat.
Yeah. 100%. Well, I was rocking a 36 waist for pants for many years, and it wasn't until just recently that I got it down to 34 when I first started doing intermittent fasting. And now I'm down to a 34, and it's kind of stabilized there. So,
but I did lose some. Now you're just kind of skinny.
Now I'm just kind of skinny.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Time to put on some muscle.
I can't even imagine what I would be. I was about 220 when I left for overseas, and that even then, it didn't look like I was any bigger than I am now. It was just, I guess, maybe leaner mass.
I suspect you probably still weren't having enough protein even then.
Oh, not even close.
Your output was probably just so much. You were eating as much as you could, and then maybe growing through that, but probably not having enough protein even then.
You've never 100%. Seen your full potential for sure.
Not even once. So hopefully in the next little while, you know what? I'm not even going to say that because hope is not a plan of action.
Right.
It's exciting,
in the next little while,
I just scrubbed that out of my brain. I can't believe you said hopefully.
I corrected myself though.
If you think of it this way, it's an exciting time because you've never even done anything. Like if you just kind of get after it a little bit, man, like your jiu-jitsu might even get improved by 15% based on just how you eat.
It's kind of blows me away how little I've actually had, and it's not even so much that I don't eat enough. It's that I just haven't had any experience in nutrition whatsoever, and so I just assumed I was eating well because I'm pretty healthy. So I was like, oh well, I mean, I don't have any issues. I'm not really, I'm not seeing any.
Ignorance is bliss.
It really is 100%. And now that I'm actually looking at it, I'm like, man,
it's so cool. It's awesome, man. I'm stoked for you.
Well, we got some work to do. So at least I got some work to do.
And by we, you mean you. Yeah.
Yeah, 100% me. And well, I mean you guys, because you guys got to keep me in check and make sure that.
Well, that's easy to do. I mean, I don't sweat when I'm doing that.
Those are all the green room sessions in behind where he's just like, you're soft. I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah. But it's all good.
I am.
Any thoughts? Anything you guys want to talk about, or you guys want to dive into a topic right away and just see where she rolls?
Do it.
All right. Let's give her. Let's jump into, okay, this is going to be a good one. We were talking about this the other day, actually last night, the excuse of external proxy.
Can you define that for me a little bit, please?
So the excuse of external proxy is basically putting yourself second because you're helping someone else, or you think you're helping someone else, or you're taking yourself out of the picture because there is something else that you are putting in primary position. So this happens to me with advocacy. When I first started getting into veteran advocacy and I started working, that side of the realm was, I would just dive into it headlong. Like, okay, I'm going to help this guy. Let me, and waking up at 2:00 in the morning, taking phone calls and helping people out and trying to manage them through a particular issue makes me feel better because they're progressing, they're growing. But what I'm doing is I'm putting myself second, and I'm putting myself into a negative spot in order for them to help. So I'm allowing them to use me as like a stepping stone kind of a deal. But on top of that, it also means that I don't have to deal with myself. I don't have to work on my stuff because I'm helping them. So that's with advocacy, with the Canadian Walk for Veterans, with even with the podcast, with the collective. It's very easy to just tuck yourself behind the veneer of helping other people.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah,
any
Yeah,
thoughts
and
right off the bat?
it's a double bad because you're not qualified to help. You're not qualified to be the external proxy. You can't help others in a tangible way or in a clean way because you've never helped yourself, because you've proxied your life in a sense of not wanting to deal with you, therefore you deal with others, and the advice that you're giving them is all guesswork because you've never applied it to yourself to such a refined degree that you know that this, if this, then that, or don't do this, do that. Like it's guesswork or anecdote that you might have heard from someone else or read in a magazine. Hey, you know what might work? ... But I mean, that's, again, those are all anecdotal assumptions, or it's guesswork. And so it's the double bad of not having to deal with you, but handing out advice that you don't know is relevant or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially if you're, go ahead.
Yeah. So I think, so what Shaun just said there makes 100% sense, right? So if you're going to be giving out advice or doling it out and you haven't experienced anything, then how are you able to help somebody in the right way, right? So for me, I was like you, like Chance, like for the last, I don't know how many years, I used to think I knew everything. You know, I could go, hey, you do this, do that, okay, whatever, I'm helping out. But the reality was I wasn't really helping because I couldn't give any good advice, like from experience. So now it's kind of, over the last couple of years, I keep my mouth shut a little bit, work, get after it, and try to expand my knowledge so that through experience and through reading and all these other things, so that at one point or at some point I can be able to help in a better way.
Yeah. Yeah. The one thing I was just about to say was the fact that there's also this, it's almost like a mythical, but you know, you do one thing and it works for you, and therefore it works for everybody, right? And that I got trapped in that quite a bit, where I'd work on myself for a little bit with my doctor, and we'd, you know, see a little breakthrough, and I'd be like, "Ha! I have the key. I can answer all
A
your
silver
questions."
bullet.
Right? I got it. No worries. Winterstorm's got a comment here. The best solutions are those you don't have to action. We're always the best parents when we don't have kids.
That's funny.
That's a great point. And I don't know how much unsolicited parenting advice I've gotten from people who don't have kids. It's quite a lot. Especially if they come up. No.
Okay.
No,
so why would someone take your advice on something if you haven't experienced it?
Well, and this is the thing, is that if your experience only takes you so far, right? Is that even with the work that I've done to get through the majority of the issues I was going through with post-traumatic stress and major depressive disorder and anxiety and all the things that work for me, that's great. But those just work for me, right? I am not a doctor. I'm not a blah, blah, blah. So even now, if somebody asks my advice, this is where the big difference was the fact that I used to just spout advice, right? Like, oh, well, try this and do these and make sure blah, blah, blah. It was just noise. Versus now, where if people ask me, hey, what did you do in order to get through X, Y, and Z? And I say, well, I did this, and this is what I saw out of it. But that's only because I am now years out of it, and I can look back on it critically rather than being in it and trying to work through it. I have a really great example of this too, was for the Tools for Toolbox podcast. Early on, I think in my first season, I interviewed one guy, and I was in the depths of a depressive episode, and I thought I was good to go. I was like, oh yeah, no, I'm handling this episode pretty well, and no big deal. We'll sit down, we'll have a conversation. It went horribly, as you can probably imagine.
Yep.
And the funny thing was, I initially put it on him. I was like, oh man, that guy just, couldn't hold a conversation. And every time I asked him a question, it was really short and terse, and there was no real back and forth. And that guy probably wasn't a great fit for me anyway. And then my wife sat down beside me as I was editing it, and she was like, "You look really uncomfortable." And I was like, "What?" And then I started looking into it, and I started looking at it more critically as to what I was doing wrong rather than what somebody else was doing wrong. And lo and behold, man, did I blow that one. It was a really, really bad interview on my part because I was in the midst of a depressive episode. Turned out very badly. So
whatever, you learned from it, so you moved on. Awesome.
Well, I did afterwards. And then I actually reached out to the person after as well, and I was like, "Hey man, I'm really sorry. I was in a depressive episode, and I took ownership of it and tried to reschedule it, and it just never quite got there. So hopefully one day I'll be able to talk to him again, because that would be a good circle to close off. We do have one comment here. Well, again, Winterstorm, people who are lost in the dark will follow anyone with a flashlight. The danger is if you provide someone with an answer who is desperate for one, they will take it as truth. Ooh, that is a great point.
Yeah. I've been subject to that too. Listening to people reaching out, like a couple years ago, obviously I was dealing with my own issues, right? And I was reaching out to a ton of different people, seeing if I can get some guidance or support or help or anything. And I was listening to just about everybody at that point, right? Like, oh, someone give me 2 cents, someone over here give me 2 cents, someone. So I was doing all these things, and it was kind of muddling me up even more. So it was like, until I kind of bumped into Shaun and Seb, it was it's tough, man. Getting the right.
I think it is tough.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
Well, I think this is a great point here. Just to the first sentence, the people who are lost in the dark will follow anyone with a flashlight. And I think that there's this concept where I think we all believe we know what we're doing, rather than understanding very early that we have no idea what we're doing. Right? We're all just kind of guessing and grasping at straws and hoping that whatever we grab onto works. Up until you have enough experience to go, this doesn't work, and this does work, and this doesn't work, and this does work. But like, we're all just lost in the dark to begin with. It's not that you get lost, it's that we're all still trying to figure it out. There's no real
what are we trying to figure out, though?
Life, just in general. How to deal with other people, how to manage. Like, I was thinking about this the other day, was the fact that there's our everyday life, and it comes with this comment too of like, oh well, I'm 40, I should know how to handle whatever. I'm 50, I should have my life in order, or whatever. But none of us really know, right? Like, we can't say for certain like that one person's got it all figured out, because they're still trying to figure out their life.
It's also dependent on the individual too, right?
But what I think you can say is, I've got enough figured out. And that's how I feel. I've got enough figured out to be comfortable. And so if you can put up that last comment from Winterstorm, the first sentence, people who are lost in the dark will follow anyone with a flashlight. I think when I read that, this is what I thought. Yeah, man, I'm actually pretty comfortable in the dark. And here's why. Because I spent a lot of time in it. I feel like I've got built-in night vision goggles. I'm not in the dark. No matter how dark it is, I can see when others can't see, because I've spent so much time in the dark. I feel like my eyes are adapted to the darkness, if that makes sense.
Yep.
And so I feel comfortable in the dark, and I feel comfortable standing in the pitch black next to someone who's completely lost. Whether we've got flashlights or not doesn't matter to me. So I think you've got to spend enough time in the dark to be comfortable in the dark, to then stand next to someone and be comfortable with them in the dark, and then lead them out of the darkness with you comfortably. And so when I first bump into people and they're trying to be large and in charge as a mega coach, life coach, be all that you can be coach, within about 3 seconds, I can look at that guy and think, dude, you're the person in this room that needs the most coaching. You're out there trying to coach, but you need a freaking mega coach right now. And so People just don't know what they don't know. You know, they've got all the flashlights and they're spinning around in circles, getting dizzy from all of the flashlights. But they're literally standing in one spot, spinning around, disoriented with flashlights. And so the flashlight is not the key to me. I've never followed anyone with a flashlight in the pitch black. I've made my own way because I'm comfortable in it.
Yeah, so I guess like the darkness would be a metaphor for like difficult times, you know, right? So, or difficult physical stuff, difficult mental stuff, whatever it is. And it makes sense what you're saying. Just do the hard things, stay in there, figure it out, spend time trying to solve it for yourself first, right? Because then you can understand the process, the thought process of navigating through that, and then observing it for yourself afterwards, thinking on it deeply, and then moving forward, and then doing it again, and doing it in a different way, and then keep doing it over and over and over. And then I think over a period of time, at least for me, I'll feel more comfortable giving advice. Right?
You will, yeah.
Yeah.
But between now and then, the advice that you give, and you've given advice, you will give more advice, and then eventually you'll give some advice in the future that it will finally feel like, oh, I think I kind of understand things now. But we all give advice, warranted or unwarranted, and most of the time it's just not the right time. I mean, I've given lots of advice and it wasn't the right time to give that advice. And so I find nowadays the devil in the details is when to say something to someone or just to let them dangle in the wind a bit more, you know what I mean? Because I find that there's real growth in letting someone dangle.
But I think it's important in the person who you're having dangle.
That's right, of course.
Some people might just dangle there forever.
That's right. But as an experienced coach or working with people in these kind of, we'll call them life coachy moments, it's my job based on the experience that I've got in doing those kind of things to understand when the timing is right. I don't always get it right. And my calibration for them is not always perfect, but it will get them/us moving in a general direction of improvement that I can then recalibrate and I can then redefine the definition of being helpful in the moment. And it might take weeks or months or years. But generally speaking, I don't feel nowadays that I have to nail it perfectly. If I get an 8 out of 10 on a directional shift, I'll recalibrate with them on a moving forward basis.
Yeah. So I was reminded of something. So I was listening to you guys live yesterday. And Shaun was talking about something. You were talking something about, saying things to sting, provide a sting so you can have a change of behavior, right?
That's right.
And immediately I thought about salmon arm, right when you said the sting.
Right. Yeah.
So my first race, I was chirping all day about running 100 miles. Yeah, no big deal, all this kind of stuff, right? And then after, I didn't even get close to 100 miles, not even half. And our conversation after was, I think you were trying to provide a sting.
Yeah, and, for
sure. So it was, and it motivated me. So it got me thinking. So I think the right time and place for those things, and the person that you're suggesting whatever the sting is, I think it's important on how that person receives it as well. Because I can handle, you can be pretty blunt with me. I can handle it. Yeah. But I guess with some people, it might have to, some nuance to it.
Yeah. That's right. And buddy, on that point, the idea being that it's my responsibility to provide the sting, carefully calibrated so that there's enough sting, but not too much sting. And I don't always get it right, but here's the thing about getting stung. Eventually the swelling goes down, you stop crying, and you're getting on with the program. And it might take a day, it might take a year, whatever, but eventually someone will reconnect with me and say, bro, my boo-boo went down. My sting went down. I'm back in the game again. All right, bring it. Let's get to it. So whether someone has a little cry for a year or has a cry for a day, no factor to me. It is unimportant. All I care about is their improvement. I don't care if they get dehydrated from crying too much. Get some more electrolytes, then get on with the program.
I got a box of electrolytes sitting right here.
Me too, pal. Me too.
I actually just finished mine, so I'm doing pretty good. It's funny. I was just thinking about the analogy of a flashlight in the darkness, and when you hand a kid a flashlight, what's the first thing they do? Anybody?
They usually zippity doo-dah it all over the place.
But even before that, they put it right in their face and they turn it on, right? And just bang, light in the eyes. And I was just thinking about how accurate that is as an analogy when you hand someone a tool that they have no concept of actually utilizing, or, like, oh, you should do X, and they have no experience in it whatsoever. And they're like, okay, cool. And they just go for it. They're basically just shining that light in their own face. And now they're disoriented. Now they have no idea what's going on. And it just sets the precedent that help equals hurt. And so you actually send people down on a negative pathway than you would on a positive pathway, which is turn the flashlight off, get adjusted to the darkness, then move around.
Yeah, I was going to raise this point and kind of drag it out into an analogy, but I'll just say it real quick. When I'm hunting in the pitch black, the best kind of hunting is sitting down and becoming a Zen monk, disappearing in the darkness and feeling the universe around you. That's the best kind of hunting, is when you feel everything and it feels nothing. You get a good read on all of it. It gets no read on you. You disappear in the pitch black because you're comfortable in it. You're a freaking ninja. And so I think that there's something to be said about that. There is something to be said about becoming comfortable in the mega uncomfortable. If you're super scared of the dark, go exist in the pitch black for a while. And now the trouble is, as I set that stage, is that's not for everyone. Not everyone can just saunter out into the pitch black and get comfortable being a ninja. So then they need help. And that's our job, my job, your job, someone's job, to take them by their ninja gloved hand as the ninja noob and walk them out into the pitch black and squat down next to them in the silence and help them understand silence, help them understand how to be comfortable in the pitch black. And so ninjas don't just like roll out of the womb as a front forward roll, throwing shurikens. They're taught how to be a ninja. It is a life. It is the way. It is the path that they have to walk over decades to become that pitch black in the pitch black.
And if people are willing to spend 5, 10, 8 years, 100 years, whatever the time frame is to do that, I think, people, at least my experience and interacting with however many people have been in the last little while, it doesn't seem like people are willing to spend that time to sit in the dark.
That's right.
10 years.
Because it's hard.
But you need that time to develop the deep wisdom.
Yeah.
I mean, if you've never gone out, like, I would encourage anyone. I know there's going to be people out there, maybe 9 out of 10 people are going to hear this and think, are you a lunatic? But I will say this, if you've never walked out of your house at 10 o'clock at night and then walk back into your house at 6 o'clock in the morning, and the entire time that you're out of your house, you're just sitting in the bush in the pitch black, observing, listening, feeling, smelling, letting all of your senses go to work and disappearing into the universe, but understanding the universe. Just go out, spend the entire night squatting down in the forest and feeling. And you'll have a whole different understanding of how the world turns by the time you walk back into your house at 6 in the morning.
It's true. One of the greatest moments that I have is when I go hunting, and it's when you start off and it's pitch black and you just sit there and you wait and you listen and you watch, and the sun slowly starts to creep over the hills and the world starts to come alive around you. As you said earlier, is that you're there, but you're not, right? You're part of it, but you're not affecting it directly. And that's an amazing moment to be a part of in the morning when you can watch the world.
But it was always
around you.
it was always awake. It was always arisen around you.
For sure.
You've just got to nuance it to the pitch black is alive.
Yeah.
If you can dial into it at a micro level.
100%. We do have an interesting merch idea from Winterstorm: the collective electrolytes made with real tears.
Bottle those babies.
Bottle of, man, if we
Actually,
could
on a
bottle up
coffee
tears.
mug.
Ooh,
Yeah, that's
there
right.
you go.
Coffee mug.
That's right.
Your tears make electrolytes or something.
Your
I like it.
growth is my electrolytes.
I like it. Yeah. Or it might just be have a little cry. We'll see you next week.
Get your cry out of the way. See you tomorrow.
There you go. Yeah, I like that a lot. So now let's talk about the external proxy, how to get over that. Right? Do you think it's an ego thing? Do you think it's a
100%.
deflection thing? Do you think it's
Ego.
ego?
Yeah.
So then how do we address it?
Face your suck. You know, you suck. If you're externally proxying, it means that you're not squared away enough to not externally proxy. So you suck in whatever capacity. You're not facing yourself. You're not doing this. You're not doing that. It's something within you that sucks. Otherwise, you wouldn't have to external proxy. So face yourself. And I'm not talking about you, Chance Bros. I'm talking about anyone who externally proxies in order to not face themselves. The reason that they're not facing themselves is because they don't want to, because there's something that is, saying to them, whatever it is, I don't want to face me. So I'm going to not face me. I'm going to face everyone else as if they're the problem rather than me being the problem. Am I wrong? Or
no, you're not. And I think the difficulty is the person who's the external proxy, how do they become aware that they're the problem, right? In terms
right about
of
the time Sean Taylor barks at them in the green room.
Yeah, but I mean, Sean Taylor's not on every corner, right? So
agreed.
So how does the individual who's giving that advice recognize that, hey, wait a second, I got like 1,000 things I need to address? That's the question, I guess, right? Like, how does that happen?
It should be happening right now.
Yeah.
It should be, if someone is even remotely aware of breathing right now, if you can feel yourself breathing, then you should be aware enough to be listening to this and thinking, oh, that's me. I need to get a grip on that. How am I going to change it? Because literally, I'm right here, right now, saying the same thing to everyone. I mean, if you're aware, if you're breathing, you're aware. And if you're aware, then you should know that you're not facing up to yourself. So I'm not barking at anyone right now, but in a general sense, I'm kind of barking. Shake your head. Why are you evading your own problems? Get on with the program. And once you do that, you'll be able to start helping others legitimately.
I think you might be almost too nuanced at this point, Sean, is that the people that are aware that they have issues, or they're aware that they're breathing, and they can actually look at themselves critically and say, man, okay, I need to sort my stuff out. I think that's who you're speaking to, but there are people out there that think they are 100% good to go.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And they're not, and they're giving out advice. And
but that takes harder barking.
It does. And
I don't like doing that publicly. I like to do it privately, because once I start barking hard, it's hard. It's not that I'm trying to be impolite or mean-spirited, but it's freaking, I'm shooting laser beams out of my eyes straight into that brain bucket of whoever's standing in front of me. And it's not that I'm like trying to be a goof, but I'm trying to create change within them. And sometimes that requires more than just a little chest poke. Sometimes it requires a solid punch in the shoulder.
I was going to say that there is a physical marker, at least for me, that I noticed pretty late, actually, in my development of my own self, was if after doing the thing that I was trying to help other people with, so like after the walk, or after a phone call late at night, or anything like that, if I was drained because of it, I was proxying. right? I wasn't actually managing the issue within myself because I was feeding other people, and I was just giving energy of myself into whatever it was I was doing. And once I realized that I was actually, and I don't mean physically drained, I mean like emotionally and mentally drained, was once I realized that, that's when I was like, oh, I'm doing it again. I'm proxying my own issues to everybody else. And I'm trying to, I'm helping, right? I'm helping. I'm doing things to get awareness, and I'm getting these people help, and I'm talking to these guys. I'm doing all this stuff, but it was all a shield. So at the end of it, I would be done. Like the second or third walk I think we did, it took me a good week to recover, right? Not just physically, but like I needed time to myself to try and rebuild myself. And it was because of that I started going, oh, I get it now. So
I had a quick question on that point. So what I heard there is that you were giving so much of yourself out, so it would drain you. So you required time to recover after certain events. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Do you notice now, do you ever get drained? Like even just not even giving advice, but the more that you're out there, more you're talking to people, just in general, do you notice you get drained that way?
Not anymore.
No.
No.
Yeah, because for me, I get drained no matter what. I talk to people all the time, and it's not like I'm giving any advice or anything, just engaging with people. So I think for me, I just I have to put a cap on how many people I talk to in a day. It's it does drain me mentally. It just drains me going out and engaging so much.
I mean, I find I'm drained after talking to Shaun for an hour every day, but
but that's everybody.
No, but I think that I think there might be, again, for me, I was like, I never thought of myself as a social person. I always thought I was, kind of an introvert, and I didn't really like talking with people and so on and so forth, until I've told the story many times. My wife told me I was a social butterfly, and I was like, what? Come on. But I am. I actually enjoy the social interactions as long as they're two-way, right? If it's, and the issue that I used to have was, again, I was proxying everything. I was putting all of my energy into whatever it was I was doing. So by the end of it, I had nothing left. And then all of the issues that I was repressing previous sprung up, and they're like, you forgot about us, didn't you? And I was like, dang. And then it would take me, a week, 2 weeks to recover, to slowly repress those back down, rather than manage them and actually work them and then get used to it and then move on, which is what I've done in the last couple of years.
Would you say that you're an extrovert?
I wouldn't agree with a couple of years.
No? What do you think?
Couple of months
since we started the collective?
Yep.
Oh, there you go.
Yep, because I see you at the start of the collective, or definitely last year, you were still externally proxying. In fact, a chunk of the collective, maybe the first half of the collective, is you asking your questions about the things that Chance Burrows struggles with, the things that you've repressed over time. And I've watched you work through those processes over the last couple of months, until we're at a point now where some of the things that you're interested about, Chance Burrows things, we talk about, and sometimes we talk about other things. I don't care what we talk about. We can talk about Chance Burrows stuff all day, every day for the rest of the year, because it's all good stuff, because it's all relevant to everyone else out there. Whatever you struggle with, everyone else struggles with to some degree. And so it's a non-factor to me about what we talk about. But I do find that you proxy the collective on things that you want to manage yourself a lot better, and you are. And so I'm looking literally at 2 case studies, my 2 favorite case studies, by the way, of how people can make rapid evolutionary positive changes by doing the hard work. So there was a time, Chance, when you thought you were mega coach, and now you're actually becoming a coach because you've coached your way through your own nonsense to a point now where you can see the delta between the lie and the truth. And I'm making simple terms here, so it's easy to move through the point. But I see 2 case studies of 2 guys who've like doubled their ability in a short period of time, from my perspective anyway. So I don't think it's been the last 2 years that you made a change. I think it's been the last couple of months that you've made a change.
We need to get some shirts, a Chance, or a mug with the 2 case studies.
Dude, not case studies. It's the case examples. And by examples, I mean like the standard. You know what I'm saying?
Ooh, you know what could be? We can get shirts that say example 1 and you could be example 2, like the old Dr. Seuss. There you go.
Dr. Seuss, I like
it.
Go, man. There you go.
And by case studies, it's not like some sort of weird little lab experiment that I'm running. I'm talking about you're running your own little lab experiment, not me. I mean, it's for you to run your program. It's for you to run your experiments. It's for you to be your own rat in a maze and figure it out. I just like poking. I like challenging. I like pushing. I like moving. I like creating change. But I can't change you. You got to change yourself. I can only add fuel to the fire. And I like freaking big bonfires, man. And so I'll push and prod and poke at warp factor 3 if someone can take the heat. And you both take the heat. And that's why you've both made like really big positive changes in your lives as I see it. Now, that's my external perspective. Maybe you all think it's a whole pile different for the pair of you. But as I see it, man, the pair of you have like doubled your abilities since I got to know you.
What do you think, Chance?
It's kind of funny. I was thinking, I was speaking to my therapist actually this morning, and I was mentioning the fact that we, Shaun and I talk every day, and the fact that there is this, it's never been stated, but it's one of these things of just like, you better keep up.
Keep up.
And like, no question
about it.
It
was stated actually on day 1.
I don't recall that, but
yeah, I do. In fact, it kind of went along these lines. It was this, not quite word for word, but I'm paraphrasing. It's like, bro, when this kicks off, you better be prepared to keep up because I'm going to start kicking ass.
Oh, yeah.
It was along those lines.
Yeah. I do remember that. Okay, so
And I actually think I said specifically, and a lot of it will be yours.
You did, yes. That was 100%. You were like 90. I think it was basically all of it was going to be me.
Correct.
Yeah. So I'm good with that. What do you think, Sach?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I think, being poked a little bit, being challenged to do better has most definitely helped me make some changes in my life, and then in turn do whatever else that I'm doing. So yeah, I mean, we put in some work, man, and I've noticed the work that you put in just by watching this. Like just by watching the collective I've been watching, right? And I can see a difference even in you too, right? So I think both of us have gotten after it, man. Like we've been nonstop getting after it in every aspect that we can think of that would be beneficial to us and everyone around us. So yeah, kudos to both of us.
100%. And the idea being that, and I've said this before, I make no claims to any results. All I do is push in a way that is uncommon, perhaps, in today's society.
It is.
But then it's for the other individual to figure it out, to figure out how they're going to push themselves, when, where, how, why, what the outcome is that they're seeking. That's for them. I'll help calibrate it to some degree, but I won't physically reach out and push them in the direction. That's for them. They have to physically move off the start line, and then they have to own each day. I'm not a day-to-day coach anymore. I'm not going to hold anyone accountable every single day. But what I am going to do is push, and then it's for the other person to push themselves. And you both have. I mean, it's ridiculous. The pressure that you've put on yourselves, the gains that you've both made, the directions that you're both heading. I mean, I couldn't be happier. And that sounds like some sort of proud parent. I didn't really do anything that is parental. I'm just pleased that I know both of you. And I'm just pleased that I know both of your personal journeys to the point that you got to where you're at right now. It's weird, but I almost feel proud. Is that weird?
No, it's not weird, man. I mean, you should. You did you did put some effort in to do
A
something,
thing. Yeah, a little
right?
bit for sure.
Sure. Whatever, however we want to define it. You did something for me and Chance, and I suspect a whole bunch of other people. And yeah, so you should be proud.
I think it's you said it not really parental, but I think it is the epitome of being a parent, right? You set the
Probably.
standard, you achieve, and not only set the standard, but you work the standard regularly. And it's interesting because I've said this to a couple of my BJJ, the white belts that have come up over the last couple of years underneath, and I'm like, man, I keep raising the standard. They're like, because they complain, they're like, oh, I can never get past you, and I'm like, yeah, but I'm making it harder for you as you're getting better. And so yeah,
Make sure you eat some more protein. It's going to get even harder.
Oh man, they're going to be good to go at that point. But
I just wanted to add a piece to that parent piece. Like, no, I don't look at Shaun as a parent or anything like that. I look at him as a buddy and a friend and someone that's going to chat and challenge and explore different ideas. Awesome. But there's a reason why I was asking when exactly your birthday was, because my parents, both of them, were born in October.
That's right. I actually recall you telling me that in I think it was last year you mentioned that.
Yeah.
I didn't want to like rat it out on a live IG, but I think we did talk about that.
Yeah.
We could definitely do that. I do want to point out Winterstorm made a very good comment here, and I just want to make sure that everybody sees it. Shaun accomplishes your personal records while he's sleeping. So RPRs are happening while he's asleep, which is, I think, pretty accurate.
Well, sometimes when I wake up in the morning with a new idea, that is, when I wake up in the morning with a crazy new idea, sometimes that's a problem for part of society.
It's one of those I've seen shirts or memes where it's like, I've woken up, or the world has granted me another day, and I'm going to make it all of your problems.
That's funny.
But no, I think what he's getting at least in my view, with this comment, is the fact that the stuff that he gets us to do, the pokes and the prods and the things that we have to manage, they happen while he's asleep, right? Because we're figuring it out, like, okay, this is what I'm going to do, and then
I will say this: as I read that, here's what I'm thinking. I'm trying to stay one step ahead of both of you or anyone, but not in the sense of trying to beat you. It's a case of I want to be one tactical bound ahead so that I've got a solution when you pop your head up out of the trench and say, what's next? Like I've always got to play. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I like that. You had a thought there, Sach?
Yeah, I did, but it's disappeared.
It's gone now. All good. So any thoughts on, let's say someone is just understanding, like now, like, oh man, maybe I'm not good to go.
You're not.
Which, yeah, okay. But let's just say they're just realizing it, and now they're doubting their good to go-ness. Where do they go from there? What do you think the first steps should be?
I don't know. I can speak for myself, what I did.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah. So I'm in a hot mess. I don't know which direction is up or down or anything. I bought a book, started reading, opening up my mind. And I picked up books that, I thought would be helpful based upon my personality and the type of person that I am. So that's how I started. And I picked up Jocko Willink's Extreme Ownership, first book I probably read in, I don't know, 20 years or something. And so that's what got me going.
That's a great start too. Great book to start with. Shaun, thoughts?
Yep. If someone doesn't know what's up, if they are looking for solutions, if they're trying to figure out how to sort out their hot mess, easy. Pen, paper, sit. Don't move until you've written down your why. Why are you here? What are you doing? What is even going on? What do you want to do with your sorry self? Write down what you want in life, why you're here. And once you've got that written down, put a priority to it. Prioritize the outcome that you want, whatever that outcome is. Doesn't matter to me. Shouldn't matter to you, quite frankly, because you haven't even started it yet. What you should be focusing on is your why, the outcome that you want, and then prioritize, I'm going to get to work and kick freaking ass, my own ass, every day until I'm just a little bit closer to understanding how close I am or not to my outcome. Over time, the rest takes care of itself as long as you do your best. But nothing happens that is of any value until you sit down and figure out your why and then clearly get on with it.
That's a great.
I remember what I
point.
was going to say, Chance. Now I remember.
Give her.
So do you notice now for you in terms of like the direction that you're going in, that it's a little bit not, I wouldn't say easier, but it's just more organic. Things are kind of moving through and it's less challenging as it was, let's say, a year ago.
I would say I'd say it's more challenging, but I've become more accustomed to the challenge. You know what I mean? Like the tasks themselves are getting harder, but I am more accustomed to overcoming them. So I don't know if it's getting so much easier as
No, you're
I'm just
becoming more competent.
competent. There we go. That's a great word for it. Is
I
that
wouldn't say it's getting easier. Your competency is rising on these kind of things. And so the tricky word being easier,
Yeah.
then can be considered by someone who's listening to this as, oh, it gets easier. Finally, I'll get to go easy. Negative. What you do is you become competent, but you keep the pace hustling. You keep the pedal to the metal, as it were. You become more and more competent, but the pace never slows down.
So it kind of, what popped in my head right when you said that is, let's say you're doing a 10K. When you first start a 10K, maybe you're burning 1,200 calories, right? 1,000, whatever, right? And you spend a year just training yourself to do a 10K. Now you're burning 500. You're still doing the 10K. You're still putting in the work. Maybe it's not as challenging or as difficult as it was before, but you're still doing the exact same thing. And then you can amp it up even further based upon, let's say now you're doing 20 and you're burning 1,000 calories. I don't know. Is that a good enough analogy? Make sense?
Yeah, that works for sure.
Yeah, I like that actually quite a bit. And again, I liken it to jujitsu. Is that as you get higher up in belt, it's not that you're getting so much. You're not exerting yourself as much. The moves don't really change. They're all the same. It's just how much effort and how efficient you become over time. And I think that is I think that's where I'm hitting that point now where I can see the efficiencies, and I'm just trying to institute them into my game, right? I'm like, okay. But the difficulty is life is getting harder, right? Sorry, not life, but like the tasks that I'm choosing for myself are getting harder. I'm just finding more efficient ways to do them.
Well, congratulations. That's called evolution.
Huzzah!
You've crossed the start line.
Excellent.
Now you just started.
Now
I just got to get started. I was talking to, I think I was talking to you, Shaun, about this, was the fact that for many years of my life, it was what you, Shaun. I was saying that, oh yeah, we'll just see what happens.
Oh,
right?
dude, that used to drive me crazy when you used to say that.
Yeah, we'll just
and
see
it
what
was
happens.
Literally every day there for a while.
Whereas now, I'm now looking at things like I want that.
Yeah, man.
And that's where I'm going. And there's no question. I stated it yesterday a little bit, was the fact that, in when I first got in the Army, that was the goal. Once I hit that goal, I didn't know what to do. And I was just kind of wandering around like, well, do I go over here? No. Okay. Over here, rather than I want that next thing. Now I want that one. Now I want that one. And just keep climbing, keep going. Whereas I would hit my objective and then just, okay, we'll see what happens. Right?
Oh, don't say that again.
How about now? Do you notice now, like you get these like ideas or some goals that you want to achieve that are pretty out there, not out there,
lofty.
Yeah. And just like, you set that and say, oh yeah, let's get after it. Let's do it. Are you doing that too now?
I'm at that point now where I'm like, it's no longer it would be nice if I could do that, or this is a good idea, or maybe I should look at this or that. It's just like, that'd be awesome. Check. And that's where I'm headed. So I made a decision just recently that that's where I'm headed, and I'm headed there. But I'm not going to tell anybody because it's going to be a secret for a little while.
Jiu-Jitsu World?
No, it's not the Jiu-Jitsu World. But
that
is a. I'm teaching more and I'm getting more involved in the instructor side of Jiu-Jitsu, but
awesome.
That is That's not something that I'm seeking actively at the moment. I'm utilizing it, but I'm not seeking it. I have another thing in my mind that it's going to be pretty cool. It's a big project, and I'm
School.
liking it.
Awesome, man. That's
Might
great.
be school. Might be school. Not just school though. Lofty ideas.
Nice, yeah.
Dude, you're going to be
We'll
a
get after it, man.
PhD. Congratulations. Some of
8
the
years in the
dumbest,
making.
some of the dumbest people I've ever met.
Okay, well, I'll tell you
Great.
what. Let's make it live so that I have no way of backing out of this ever from now on. Is the fact
I was
that
going to push you.
so I was talking with Doc Gino
Mm.
Klura about behavioral science and what the realm of behavioral science looks like, and we discussed it for a while. And I told him, what my interests were and where my thoughts lie. And my initial idea of what behavioral science was like profilers. Right. And I watched a whole lot of Criminal Minds and was like, oh, that's pretty cool. It'd be nice to know. But I've always been fascinated with why people make the decisions they make and how the cultural impact of how they grew up affects their decision making. And he was like, oh, that's actually kind of what I'm into. And it's like neuroscience, anthropology, something like that, anthropological neuroscience, something like that. So that's the realm I'm diving into. And as I get farther into this idea of school, I've never liked school, never liked doing it, but that is kind of why I'm going that way, because I need the challenge.
You're also a different human now than when you were in school before.
100%.
And I'll throw this at you just to add a twist, because I like to add twists. We were driving out to Kelowna and on the weekend, and we're talking back and forth in the vehicle, and Evan said to me, hey, Dad, I just wanted to let you know that when I'm finished engineering, I find this interesting that I'll be graduated after 4-year program, but you've never done any 4-year programs. And yet you know more about most things than most people I know, but you don't have a degree. You never stop pursuing knowledge in all kinds of subjects. And I said, yeah, you're right. And he said, what do you think is the best way to do it? And I said, well, the way that provides you the most knowledge. So maybe it's school, maybe it's not. Doesn't matter what it is. What is important is the active pursuit of betterment.
You know what? Actually, it's interesting. You said some of the dumbest people have doctorates there. That is the ultimate external proxy. I'm a doctor. I don't need to know anymore, right? That's your immediate external proxy from now on. You can step off, right? Aha! It's
don't
easy
have to try anymore. I will say this. I think I've said it before. When I was a computer system engineer teaching or running head instructor of an entire computer system engineering and programming school, I walked into the building that we're in, walk right up to the elevator, push the button, elevator opens, and there's a guy just standing there staring directly ahead. His name was Max. He was a PhD in theoretical math and blah, 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 whatever, as one of the programmers. I looked at him and I stepped into the elevator and I stood next to him, turned around, and no buttons were pushed. And so I just pushed our floor and I looked at him and I said, what's going on, Max? And he said, hey, Shaun, if you don't push the button, do you go anywhere? And I just looked at him and I said, okay, Max. Got out of the elevator and carried on with my job. And Max is a full-on PhD theoretical mathematician with the big brain that cannot operate in society.
Yeah.
And so smart, yes. Dumb, yes.
I think that's a great point, is that it doesn't matter how smart you are, you can be dumb. And it doesn't matter what you're smart in, there are lots of things you don't know.
Correct.
So always seek information. And once you have some information, then utilize it. That's my thought. We're almost at an hour now. You guys got any final thoughts? Sach, anything on what we've gone over, or external proxy or anything?
No, man. It's nice talking to you guys.
Nice chatting. Always good. Shaun, any final thoughts?
It's a fun combination that we've had on this morning, looking at the pair of you and how awesome you're crushing it. It's fun for me. It's fun, literally, to see how good you're both doing. I am amused.
Well, I can speak for myself. Maybe I can speak for Chance here. It's fun for us too.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah,
That's good.
it's fun for us too.
Most of the time.
Well, you know, stings heal up.
Well, that's part of it, right? This is how we all learn. This is how we all build. This is how we all grow. Sometimes you got to get stung. Sometimes you need a knife hand. Sometimes you need a shot in the shoulder. But you can get all of those things every day here on the Collective. Talk to y'all tomorrow. Chimo.
Chimo.
You know.